Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews. Have you ever wondered what games you should sell or you should use? Find out here at Purge Reviews. Find out on our top 10 list what games you cannot miss. Don't forget to subscribe to Purge Reviews.
Here's Clans of Caledonia. This is the Kickstarter game that I got. It plays 1 to 4, does have a solo variant inside. About 30 minutes per player is pretty good. With a 4-player game, we're at about 2 hours, 2:15 from box to box. This is how I decided to store it because there's really no good storage solution due to the thinness of this box. I've seen some Planos online. I might end up doing something like that. I got all the bits mixed in here. This does not come with it. And I just bagged everything else up. I do have some upgraded coins, but I gotta admit, it's a mess in here. It's just kind of thrown together. Let me show you how to play the game. First thing, let me show you a little bit about the scoring. So you're gonna get a scoring pad. Here's an example of a scoring that we played tonight. You're gonna get points for having your goods, money. You can have these scoring mechanisms. Whoever completes the most contracts and who has the most settlements. And that's going to give you a little bit of an idea of what you have. So you're going to have a complicated scoring mechanism, but it all makes sense when you play. So here's what the game kind of looks like set up. I want to give you an idea of everything smooched together real fast. Here's your board. It's modular, double-sided, but you're going to have a lake in the center. You're going to have your people down here. Your board, I'll give you a closer look. Everything's going to be set up. You're going to have 2 merchants that you'll be able to play, and you'll start the game with. And then you'll have the export contracts and what's going to score every round set up. In addition, you're going to be placing people out on the board based on turn order and a snake draft. And you still have to pay for them when you put them out, but you don't have to follow any of the placement rules. And that's going to be really important for when you start the game out. Now, I'm not going to cover every single rule in the game. I'm going to give you a general idea of the flow of the game and kind of how it works. So the first thing you'll do on a turn is that you'll replace any of these export tokens or tiles once they're taken. You'll get all your merchants back that you use in the market, and you'll move on to the second phase, which is playing your workers and spending your money and taking the actions. That's the main grunt of the game. The third part is you will produce, and finally you'll score based on the scoring mechanism and do some cleanup. So let's take a look at this. So the first thing you'll do is you'll take and fill up this pile over here. Very easy. It's just another cleanup phase of the game. Now, number 2, you take your actions. You'll be utilizing this nice player aid. I'm going to go through all the actions here, then I'll show you on the board how they work. The first thing you do is buy or sell or trade a good at the market based on whatever the current price is. You can export a contract by getting one of those contract tiles. You can expand on the board. This will be the area control part of the game. Then you can do a couple little upgrades that you can do or hire merchants. I'll show you how to do that. You can fulfill a contract or you can pass. Now, when the first person to pass will get $16, second will get $14. So you get paid a little bit more when you pass. Let's take a look at some of these actions and what they do. I like to start with these export contracts. This is kind of what you're doing for the majority of the game. You will pay for whatever on this side, and you will receive what's on this side. So in this case, you will pay 1 bread, 1 cheese, and 1 beer, and you will get 3 tobacco, 2 upgrades, and $10. In this case, you'll pay 1 sheep, meat, 2 bread, 1 beer. You'll get 3 cotton, get to place somebody on the board. You pay to place them, but the land cost you don't have to pay, and you will get 5 hops. And so what you'll be doing is giving up resources to get victory points pretty much in the game. So let's take a look at the board, and I'll show you how the victory points work. This scoring right here will tell you how the majority of the victory points work. For every fulfilled contract you have, so if you fulfill this, you'll have 5 hops. Every hops is worth 1 victory point. So if you fulfilled this one, you would get 5 victory points for the hops. Now, the way the cotton, the tobacco, and the sugarcane works is every time you fulfill a contract, in this case, you fulfilled 3 cotton, the cotton would move on this track. So if you were here and you got 3, you go 1, 2, 3. So whenever you fulfill it, you're tracking it on here. Whatever is fulfilled the most will receive 3 victory points per completed tile. So in this case, if it was worth 3, I would get 9 points for the cotton and 5 points for the hops. If they were second, so let's say the tobacco got to 30 and cotton was on 29, it'd be worth 4 points. So now this would be worth 4 times 3 is 12, plus the 5 for the hops because they're worth 1 victory point always. So it would be worth 17 points. But if it was the least and sugarcane and tobacco were ahead of cotton, then cotton would score 5 points for each one. So this 3 would be worth 15, plus 5 for this is 20. So when you're scoring things, you're hoping they're worth more victory points, which they will be, 3, 4, or 5, but these will be compared to what each of these 3 do. Hop's always 1, and these can be worth 5, 4, or 3. So fulfilling these does take an action, and that is a big part of the game. You're gathering resources to turn them in and hopefully score a max amount of victory points at the end of the game. Now, another action you're going to have on the board is to take one of these contracts. In the first round, you will get $5 for taking one of these contracts. The second round will be worth 0. Next round will be worth -5. You have to pay $5 to take these. Then the cost will go up. It'll be 10 and then 15 in the last round. So you'll be getting these contracts, and that will require it, but you will also have one of these that will be there depending on what round you're in, whether you get money, break even, or have to pay for them. You'll be getting one of these export contracts, and you'll be putting it on your token right here. You can only have one at a time unless you're one of the particular clans that have individual powers, and you just stick it here, and when you fulfill it, it takes another action to fulfill it. So there are really 2 ways to buy a resource. This is the first way. So this is the market. And when you start out, these circles indicate what the starting price of the resources are. When you buy it, you'll take one of your market cubes and you'll put it here at the top, indicating which one you want to put. And on one turn, you can put 1, 2, 3, 4, as many of these you want, and you can buy it for, let's say this 4. And after you buy, let's say you bought 1, then you would shift it up to the next spot. And the reverse would be true if you were selling it, where if it was 4, you could sell one of 4 and it would shift down if you just sold 1. If you sold 2, it would shift down twice. And you can see the 3 preliminary resources are here and the 3 refined are here. So this is kind of a market you can use to get any resource you want at any point. You just got to have the resources to either buy it or sell it. The second way to get resources, and really the main way to get the resources, is by utilizing your player board. You'll see you have sheep, cows, cheese, bread, wheat, beer, woodcutters, and miners over here. And each of these types you can put out on the board. If you look really close down here, you'll start to see some pricing at the top. So to put the bread out, it will cost you 8 coins, the wheat 18, and the beer will cost you 10. And each of the spaces has a different price on it. So what you will do when you put this stuff out is you put it out on the board. If you want to put a woodcutter out, it just has to go on top of a forest. If you want to put a miner out, they will go on top of the mines. Any 3 of these spots will be the mine. And if you want to put out anything else, it just has to grow on a grassland space. Now, the rules for placing things out are a little complicated, and I think I have a pretty strong grasp of it, or at least what we've kind of went through. So when you're placing things on the board, they must go adjacent to the board of where you're already at. So you can always build adjacent to where you're at. Those are always options that you have. I want to pause for a moment about the settlements because I want to show you how you upgrade, because it's imperative to know this in order to realize the rest of the settlement. If you wanted to upgrade these merchants, this is $4, and you would pay that, and you would take one of these. This would give you an extra action at the market. If you wanted to upgrade these 2, you would flip these over, and every round you get paid to have your people out in the forest or the mine. This just makes it worth more money. So you upgrade these early on, and you'll make your money back by having these out. So the upgrade here would be to put more money out on the board and be able to generate more income every round. Now back to the settlements, and this is the important upgrade here for what we're doing. For 4 coins, you can upgrade this little spoke, and he will move. The first thing you do is where you start out at the game is you can place anything adjacent. Then you move up, you can cross rivers on the path, and then 1, 2, 3, or 4 locks away. Now I'm going to cut to the board and show you how this works. Now keeping in mind what I just showed you, if you wanted to, you could cross this river if you had upgraded to the river aspect. Now if you wanted to go across this lock, you'd have to be at the 1 spot on the upgrade, then you could go there, and then 2 and 3 and so on and so on. Now another reason why you want to do this, at the end of the game, you're going to get points for having the most settlements. So in this case, with a board like this, I would have 1 settlement, crossing the river would be 2, and over here would be 3 settlements. So you want them to be broken up by an empty tile or water, and that's how you get the settlement. Because it's a little bit of a complicated game, I want to go over this again. Buy or sell is the market that I showed you. Obtaining the export contract, I showed you that. For the first round, you get 5 coins. Second round is free. After that, you have to pay for them. Here's how you expand. You put things out on the board like I just showed you. You can upgrade. The 3 upgrades is shipping the technology and hiring the merchant to put on the board. Or you can fulfill one of your export contracts, or you can pass. Those are the main options that you're going to have. Now, the player board is really amazing. I really like this player board a lot. So what you do when you do a production, you just look on your board. If there's something missing, then you get it. So I know I get 1 wool, 2 milks, a cheese, a bread, 2 grain, a beer. It tells me right here I get 4 coins, or 6 if I got the upgrade, and 6 or 8 if I have the upgrade there. So you don't even have to count the map and look at what's out there, and that can get kind of messy. You literally look at your board and it tells you what you have. Very, very cool. Love this player board a lot, and it does save you a tremendous amount of time while you're playing. So that's a quick overview of Clans of Caledonia. What you're going to be doing is, at the beginning of the round, you'll be filling these export up and looking at how you're going to score at the end of the round. Then you will spend your actions to put people out or buy at the market to get resources. You will be getting more export contracts or fulfilling them, or upgrading here at the bottom of your track. When everybody passes, the round will end, and then you will produce anything that you have out. You will get resources for, money for the people that are out, and then you will just kind of clean up and do the same thing over. The game plays for 5 rounds, and then the game is over. And that's Clans of Caledonia. Clans of Caledonia is a new Kickstarter game that just came out. It plays between 1 and 4 players. Now, there's a solo variant that you can play with some dice. There's a 2-player game that shrinks the board, 3 a little bit, and the full complement is 4. I found the game, and I played it at a lot of different player numbers. I found it to be actually a fairly good game at all player numbers, even 4. The box does say 30 minutes per player. It does get a little bit longer. Our last game was about 2.5 hours. That's with teaching the game to some new players, and that was with 4 players. So it's a meaty Euro game is what you're going to get, and expect the normal amount of time that you would spend in that. What makes this game so interesting is the economics of the game. So you're going to have 3 goods that are kind of like preparatory goods and resources, and 3 that you'll finish them off and turn them in. For example, milk can be turning into cheese. Grain or wheat can be turned into either whiskey or bread, depending on what strategy you're utilizing. When the game starts, you're given a different clan every time you play. This is a fantastic way, and it just works in this game. Your strategy will play into how that clan plays, and you need to utilize the strategy of your clan to win the game. Every time I've played this game, and I've played it over 10 times now, everybody plays to that strength almost on accident. Like, you just organically do it. And it's really, if not the first time, definitely the best time that I've seen the individual powers utilizing strategies every time I play. Every time I play where it's 2, 3, or 4, I always look at it like, wow, we all did something different. We all went after something else, whether it was real estate or getting those exports or trying to get goods and how we're getting those goods. Are we doing the market or are we trying to produce them? Producing them is always the best, right? Because you put a cow in the field and every round it gives you milk. Well, sort of, because it depends on, you may not need milk later depending on what export tiles come up. So the unique strategies that come in the game, I don't think you'll sit down and play this game and you'll say, man, I'm going to play this strategy and this will win me the game, because there's so many variables that come in. Your player power, what tiles are coming up, what the other players are doing. And it can become a real battle for real estate in this game. So I think that the different strategies that come up, while some may work better, I suppose, everything seems really well balanced to me. I haven't had a lot of problems with runaway leaders, although the scoring is so complicated that I'm not really sure you can eyeball it. There's many times where I thought I was out of it and I actually won, or things were closer than I thought it would be. So I don't know that you can eyeball the score and really feel like who's winning, even though there are some points given out through the game. I do really like the scoring mechanism, how there's 3 goods, and they're worth either 5 victory points per, 4 per, or 3 per, depending on which one scores more. So if the sugarcane scores more, than the cotton or the tobacco, then it'll be worth 3 points. And if the cotton was scored the second most, it'll be worth 4 points. And the remaining good will be 5 points. I really like that because it makes you go maybe in a different direction because it's worth a few more points rather than really what you're good at. Or do you press your luck with that? I don't know. It's a really cool mechanism that I found in this game. And the scoring, even though it requires a score pad and it really has a lot of scoring at the end, doesn't really bother me. The settlement rule was a little tricky for us to, that how you can go over those locks a little bit. It was really confusing. I'm not 100% sure or confident that we're playing that properly. I followed the rule and the example. Most of that rule is in the example, but I did struggle with that somewhat. Now, this isn't necessarily an easy game to teach. It's not. It can be very, very hard because there's a lot of things going on, but the things kind of flow together. So when I teach it, I go over the actions and what you can do, and I kind of tell you how those work together. These goods can turn into these goods, which you turn into victory points. But after a round, most people are like, now I got it. I hear that a lot, no matter how I teach it. And I feel like I got teaching this game down to a science right now. It always does end up like after that first round, gotcha. I see how it goes. And then the second game, you're kind of in it more for the strategy. And that works really, really well. The components are just amazing. When I was playing the game, somebody said, did you upgrade these components? I'm like, no, it's a Kickstarter. It came with this. And they're just fantastic. Although I did upgrade the money, the metal coins, that was available in the Kickstarter. That was an option, and it looks phenomenal. The sheep look like sheep, the cows look like cows, and they all come in their individual colors, and they look just fantastic. And when you're looking at what you're doing, they look really, really good. So the components are just out of this world. It looks really great. There's no reason to upgrade anything with this, except for maybe the money that came with the Kickstarter. That real money is just phenomenal. And I really, really like the components. You're not going to complain about it. I think the box could have been a little bit thicker so I could have a storage solution other than bags inside. I had to go back to bags with this one because the box is so thin. But I wish it would have had a Caverna-sized box that way I could put some plastic containers in there. But that's a minor quibble at best. As for the gameplay, it really takes you a little while to figure out what you're doing. And you really need to build economies of scale. If you have a lot of sheep out on the board, then you need to be getting those export tiles that require wool because you'll be getting those every round. And if they don't come out, you need to shift immediately. Find something to do with that. Turn it into something else. Which leads me to the wheat. I really feel like the wheat, I haven't used this strategy quite yet, but I really want to use a strategy where I put a lot of wheat out. It's the most expensive thing to put out, but it gives you 2 per round, and those can turn into bread or the beer. So I feel like the wheat might be a really neat strategy to go, and I really need to investigate that more as I play. The game gives you quite a few ways to score points. So you're not going to score everything. You're not going to be able to do everything. So you're going to have to pick and choose and pivot as you need. And I really like that. Are you going for the settlements? Well, if you have a certain clan that will allow you to do the fishermen, it's easier to do. If you get the clan that allows you to play with the market, maybe you don't want to plant as much. You want to be up there buying and selling, maybe manipulating that a little bit more. So there's a lot of different strategies in this game, even though it's pretty simple. You get this to make this to score victory points at its core. But then you have the market going on. You have the individual powers. And you have a little bit of that space. And you're trying to complete the export tiles to have the most to get that extra bonus points. There's enough going on, even though the game is only 5 rounds, that you feel like that you're doing enough. Now, one minor complaint I have is the first round, you get those export contracts, you get money for getting those, and it can be really hard unless you're going to utilize the market to fulfill those because you have no time to produce that round. So you really, if you're going to go the production route, you're not fulfilling export tiles until the second. We can only have 1 at a time. So you're really losing that benefit of getting paid to have those. You're going to have to utilize that market. With that said, on the last round, if you have a good production going on, then you won't be able to complete any export tiles in the last turn. You're just hoping to get a whole bunch of victory points by producing this stuff because the 3 goods are worth 1 and the other 3 goods are worth 2 victory points at the end. So I feel like there's a lost opportunity there where like the first round the production is a little bit weakened, then the last of it, it just feels like you're not doing anything with your production. You're just producing to get even more victory points. So I felt a little bit of let down. I don't really know how to fix that within the design. It is what it is. It has to have a finite number of rounds. You know, the production has to happen at the end of the round. I get all that. It works. I just feel a little empty, just a tad bit at those 2 places. Even though you're doing resource management here, money, coins, currency, drives the market. Nearly everything you do in the game, from upgrading to get more people in the market, to getting a better ships, to getting more money for your workers, requires money. Putting people on the board requires money. Creating a company and your bakery that you want to make requires money. Everything requires money. So managing that currency and making sure that you get the maximum amount of money that you can is super important. So getting those workers out early, while it costs you money, the earlier you get them out, the more money you'll be making throughout the game. So generating money, generating currency is super important, especially early on in the game, and that can end up saving you in the long run. So that's another strategy that I'd like to utilize a little bit more, is rushing out to get those people out. Maybe investing in some of that wheat a little bit later on, but there are so many different directions that you can go. In conclusion, as you can tell, I find Clans of Caledonia to be a very interesting game. It has a lot of good decisions to make in it, and every time I go back to it, I'm like, I want to try something else. I want to try something else. And sometimes I get pigeonholed by the other players because I also want to try to win. I really like the player powers. I feel like they're the right balance of how powerful they are, and they give me a strategy in the game. I love the use of currency and resources in this game, and I actually like the theme. Even though we've seen this farming theme before, it's done a little bit differently. There is some area control mechanisms and some bonuses you can get, some Purge go experience. There's not too many rules. It feels really good for a heavier Euro. And I have to say, I really like this game. I really wish this game gets a wider production, maybe another Kickstarter run, or maybe see it in stores. I don't know if these heavier games sell that well. I'm not really privy to that kind of information. But they definitely have a winner on their hands. This is definitely a good game. If you're into, medium to heavier weight Euros, this is one I think you should check out. If you like economic games, I definitely think you should check this one out. This one has great components, great rule set, very fun game to play, great mechanisms, and things make sense when you play it. I highly, highly recommend it. It's probably one of my favorite games of the year, and it's a definite keeper. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you liked it, please like it and hit that little subscribe button. That really helps out the channel, lets us know that you're getting the videos that you want. If you agreed or disagree with what I said, feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I promise that I will comment back. Thanks for watching, and everybody else, keep playing games.